Well, every generation has them. When it comes to sports, I sometimes think that you are one of them. And that is, risk takers. That is, people who need to test the limits to prove to others or themselves that they've got what it takes and they just love the excitement. Well, these days, it's the bungee jumpers. The sport can be exhilarating, but it can also be very dangerous. What can go wrong? And if you just have to try it, how can you protect yourself? Mike Schneider gives you the lowdown on this updated version of a very old ritual.
It all began as a test of courage back in the South Pacific. Native villagers in the islands would wrap liana vines around their ankles and swan dive off a 10-story high tower as a test of faith and proof of manhood, to say nothing of a measure of sanity. Many believe not a lot has changed since those primitive ways. The same thrill of that old custom has been sweeping this country for the past few years. And 1 million jumpers have been paying up to $100 for the privilege of adding a little terror to their lives by jumping from scary heights on rubber band-like cords attached to their ankles or chest, and then being shot back in a rebound like a slingshot. Take it up, please. You know, from here it looks so simple. You just climb on board, they close the door, they hoist you up, and away you go. Interesting thing, the higher you get, the less simple it looks. You can stop now. You know, I could go a lot higher, but I'm not jumping today. But if I wanted to go higher, I could go 250 feet high at this jump in Mountain View, California. That's 25 stories. Who would want to jump out of this thing at 25 stories?
Comfortably snug like this.
It turns out they're not what you might expect. Super jocks or super jerks. These are the faces of just ordinary people. They're not crazy at all. At least most of them don't think they are.
There's no way to explain it. It's just a rush, just a big adrenaline rush.
Today I'm going to jump because it's my 18th birthday.
I think the worst part is letting go.
For the first time in your life, it's probably the most fearful thing you'll ever have to face. Letting go of a structure where normally you would die if you would jump off of it or fall off it. So now you can see.
That excitement is what made Peter Kockelman, a 30-year-old engineer, fall in love with bungee jumping 5 years ago. He built the first commercial operation in the U.S., Bungee Adventures, in Mountain View, California. It's also known as one of the safest, even though it's 250 feet high. A lot of what he and his brother John fell in love with before they built that place was danger. And the Kockelmans designed a 200-foot death-defying leap called the Human Sandbag off a remote bridge over a pristine river in the mountains of Northern California. What the heck were you thinking about when you did this?
Thinking about dying, being very fearful of what we were going to do. My brother was attached to cords and I wasn't. I was the sandbag.
Run! I love you, God. Rock and roll!
We jumped off of a bridge, and when we hit the water, he let go of me in the water. And he rebounded up above the bridge.
He more than rebound, he rocketed it, didn't he? He came flying up there.
He came flying up there, yeah.
Today, both brothers warn amateurs not to try human sandbagging because it's too dangerous. They don't do it anymore either. But hundreds of first-time jumpers do show up at one of the 250 more typical bungee jumping sites sprouting up around this country, and it looks like they could become as popular as roller coasters. At the Bungee Adventure site in California, the visit often becomes a family outing for the day. California, incidentally, is one of the few states that requires insurance and inspections for bungee jumping operations.
Bungee! All right, Dad!
Apparently, everybody here was having a great time. But is it safe? Statistically, it seems to be, but it is not foolproof. Just a few months ago, this mother, Barbara Schilling of Newark, Delaware, went to the beach in North Wildwood, New Jersey, with her 2-year-old son and her husband. Mrs. Schilling decided jumping would be fun.
Hi, I've always wanted to do this.
All right, ready?
Yeah, I'll see you on the way down.
Okay.
When she jumped, she hit the bottom and struck the corner of an airbag and broke her neck.
In New Jersey, bungee operators must weigh a jumper to decide what strength cord to use for a person of a particular weight. Mrs. Schilling's lawyer, Elliot Alizraki, referring to a state accident report, said,
She was weighed improperly or the scale registered improperly.
Mrs. Schilling actually weighed 140 pounds, stretching the cord too far. Alizraki told us she has had to wear a halo brace attached to her neck since July and may never be able to return to work as a registered nurse. Now, since most states don't regulate bungee jumping, they also have no way of knowing exactly how many accidents have occurred, but there have been several. Just a year ago, the first death was recorded in California at this balloon jump in Paris, near Los Angeles. This man, Hal Irish, a bungee worker, jumped from this balloon in what was supposed to be a routine illustration for the customers of safe jumping. Investigators concluded that Irish had apparently been incorrectly hooked up. The second bungee operation fatality occurred this past July in Auburn, Michigan, when another employee of a crane jump business was killed accidentally. And in another accident in Michigan, this one in Grand Blanc Township, David McCallum paid $100 to jump from this crane, attached to an ankle harness. The harness disconnected. McCallum fell headfirst and hit the corner of an air mattress. He suffered a broken ankle. Carl Finacaro is the safety chairman for the North American Bungee Association, a nonprofit group that helps set standards for the bungee business. In addition to running a steel tower bungee jump himself in Denver, Finacaro has investigated all of the major accidents in this country. 2 U.S. deaths, 11 serious injuries. He says none have been caused by faulty equipment.
The accidents that we're seeing across the country are coming down to the human level, human error.
He says the amateur bungee jumper must keep an eye out for his own safety. Make sure the place you're going to jump from looks well organized, the equipment in good shape, because things can go wrong. What's the most important thing to look for? A second person must check everything before you jump. That may sound like a pretty elementary thing to look out for, but there are dozens of unsafe and uninsured jump sites around this country where renegade operators are more interested in making money than in safety. Young people flock to this remote and illegal place on the Barty's Bar Railroad Bridge near Oroville, California.
It's like the biggest rush you can have, you know. It's like I live life for experiences, and this is one of the best experiences you can have. It's like orgasm in the air, you know.
It's far from any main roads, not accessible to ambulances if there's an accident. Though some of the operators here run safe systems, some don't. And because they are all illegal, nobody knows for certain. Many of the jumpers don't seem to care.
3, 2, 1.
And jumpers often dive off the bridge for what's called head dipping, a dangerous jump where they hit the water head first and then catapult up. Now, if they hit a log in the water, it could be fatal. And sometimes they jump off very close to one another and could collide with each other. All bridge jumping is illegal in California and most of the country. This railroad bridge belongs to the Union Pacific, and they say the handrails to which the bungee ropes are attached could break under the increased stress of 150 pounds dropping 200 feet. And Union Pacific doesn't want the liability if a jumper is killed or injured, either jumping or perhaps being hit by a passing train. And just in case you think the thrill of bungee jumping is just for young people, meet Dr. William Forgee of Merrillville, Indiana. He is 50 years old and says if you're in good health and there are no mishaps, bungee jumping is a safe sport and statistically has few accidents.
Whoa, this beats a day in the office! Yay! Whoa! Okay.
Now, there's some very important but not so obvious things to look for in a safe bungee jumping operation. And when we come back, Mike Schneider's going to join us and we'll point these out and we'll kick it around for a while. We'll be right. People have been killed, but what's the figures on that? How
It's
safe?
surprisingly safe, in fact, from that statistic. 3 last year in 1 million jumpers, 2 in the United States, which makes it statistically safer than skydiving, but not nearly as safe as, say, skiing.
But you love to fly and you love gliders. Would you do this?
No, I don't have any desire to bungee jump.
I would kill you.
No, I don't think I'll do that.
What is I mean, we go to horror movies and we like roller coasters. What is the appeal for this terrible kind of danger?
I think it's the sense that you can kind of play with your own mortality but walk away from it. And people like to take it as close to the edge as they can.
What should they, if you're going to do it, what should we know?
Well, you really should know that you have to look out for yourself because in many cases no regulations exist. Make sure that the place has insurance. Make sure that there is also some sort of log of how many times the cords have been used, and also make sure everything has been double-checked.
Good advice.
And then don't do it.